Even the most rotten of families possessed sane and rational members, while ruin and discontent were reaped and sowed in the halls of the Red Keep. Some kept their wits about them. The unstable and contentious lions warred with enemies within and without, heightening paranoia and raising tensions in a landscape already racked by war. But one man found it in his heart and soul to carry on as he always had, even though it led straight to his downfall. This man was Kevan Lannister. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Exploring Fiction. The respected brother of a titanic figure of Westerosi politics, Ser Kevan proved to be the stable force holding House Lannister aloft in its most troubled hour. Through the tumult of the war and the chaos of its aftermath, he stood stoic and dependable for his family. But this trait which garnered him the most respect also brought him his end. For outside forces wished to see the end of his line, and Ser Kevan Lannister proved a hurdle toward that end. He was cast aside to join his fallen kin, all because he proved too dependable and too staunch in his principles. So, who exactly is Kevan Lannister, and why is he such an interesting character? Let's explore. Kevan Lannister was born in the year 244 AC to Lord Tytos Lannister and his wife, Lady Jane Marbrand, at Casterly Rock. He was one of 5 children of the pair, though he was closest with his older brother Tywin. From early on in his childhood, Kevan recognized the undeniable prowess of Tywin, and thus deferred to him in most things, forging a stronger bond than with either of their other brothers or lone sister. However, while Kevan became a close companion of Tywin, it also meant he was forever overshadowed by his brother, both on the battlefield and at court. Before reaching manhood, Kevan was sent by his father to Castamere to serve as page, and later squire, for Lord Roger Rayne. Kevan was knighted by Lord Rayne soon after for his service in the War of the Ninepenny Kings. Now Ser Kevan, the newly made knight, traveled to the Free Cities as he was officially proclaimed not a boy, but a man. Upon his return to Casterly Rock, though, discontent reigned. Lord Tytos was always seen as timid, and the headstrong and quickly blossoming Tywin had taken it upon himself to reinstate the Lannister banner highest amongst those of the West. Tywin bade Kevan to ride into the Westerlands and rid the country of the scourge of bandits and criminals that had taken up residence there, doing what his father would not. What's more, Kevan was to collect all debts owed to House Lannister, and those that were unable to pay were to surrender a hostage until their coffers could fulfill their debts. One ward collected by Ser Kevan was Lady Dorna Swift. The pair fell in love, and were married in the year 266 AC. They subsequently had 4 children, of whom the most prominent was the oldest, Lancel. But uncertainty still plagued the West, for Lords Rayne and Tarbeck refused Tywin's demands, seeking instead to parley with the meek Tytos, who they knew would bend to their will. And though for a time it seemed the Raynes and Tarbecks would push their way to the top of the political pyramid, Tywin, Kevan, and the other boisterous Lannisters suppressed their rebellion with ruthless ambition. In 267 AC, Lord Tytos Lannister passed on, leaving Casterly Rock by right to Lord Tywin Lannister. As Tywin ascended to his destined seat, Kevan was ever at his side, still the loyal confidant and second son. He became a household knight under the Lannister name, and thus claimed no land for his own, but the wealth and influence he gained under Tywin rivaled that of any minor lord of the Westerlands. Ser Kevan Lannister held the features for which his house had come to be known. He was a large man, with thick shoulders and a barreled chest. His hair was balding but golden blonde like the rest of his family, and a yellow beard traced his strict jaw. With blistering green eyes and a rounding face, Kevan was not nearly as homely as some of his kin, but he was a stern man, overshadowed only by his older brother. Ser Kevan dressed himself in the crimson and gold of the Lannisters, with a red cloak clasped by a golden lion's head brooch. In battle he wore standard Lannister armor, and at his hip was a sword, not of Valyrian steel, but formidable in the hands of its owner all the same. Like most other Lannisters in A Song of Ice and Fire, Ser Kevan Lannister first appears in A Game of Thrones. After the death of King Robert Baratheon, the Seven Kingdoms quickly hold host to a blossoming war, of which House Lannister is at the heart. Ser Kevan joins his brother Lord Tywin, as he has so many times before, and together they lead the hosts of their house to capture strategic points in the Riverlands. Kevan leads the central Lannister force in the Battle of the Green Fork. While it is a victory for the Westerners, they discover Lord Roose Bolton had led the battle, not the vengeful young wolf, and so the win feels empty in their hearts. The war quickly begins to shift in the North's favor, as Ser Jaime Lannister is captured in the Battle of the Whispering Wood, along with Kevan's son Willem. And though harried by the capture of their beloved Golden Child, the Lannisters continue to mount their attacks, with Tywin in command and Kevan by his side. Ser Kevan Lannister continues his actions in the war effort in A Clash of Kings. At the Battle of Oxcross, another of his sons, Martin, is captured by Robb Stark. Lord Tywin has experienced enough defeats at the hands of the young wolf, and bids his forces return west to regroup. Along with his older brother, Kevan rides out from Harrenhal for home, but they are stymied by Sir Edmure Tully at the Red Fork in the Battle of the Fords. Hemmed into the heartland of the Seven Kingdoms, the Lannisters instead turn south and east, and join the marching force of Tyrells, who make for King's Landing to save the crown from wayward King Stannis Baratheon. Together, the might of the two great houses defeat Stannis and his forces in the Battle of the Blackwater, and Kevan resides in King's Landing with his brother and most of the rest of his closest family. For his actions, Tywin names Kevan's eldest son Lancel Lord of Derry. Yet while the lions sit triumphant, Kevan remains vigilant for treachery and discord, both inside and out of the city. In A Storm of Swords, Ser Kevan Lannister begins to move into place as an important member of his house. He is named by King Joffrey to the position of Master of Laws following the Battle of the Blackwater, though he remains concerned for both his son Lancel and his nephew Tyrion, who both suffered physical and mental strife in the conflict. This is little abated when his son Willem is slain by Lord Rickard Karstark in an internal northern squabble. And though later Robb offers his other captive son Martin in exchange for Robert Glover, Kevan wallows in unease at the fate of his remaining heirs. So distracted and distraught is he that Tywin is forced into trusting Tyrion with greater responsibility in Kevan's stead. Yet Tyrion proves once again to be a disappointment to his father, as he is named prime suspect in the murder of King Joffrey. Despite holding more affection for the dwarf than the man's own father, Kevan cannot help but see Tyrion as guilty. Nevertheless, he visits the imp often while Tyrion is imprisoned, urging him to accept Tywin's offer should he plead guilty. But Tyrion declines the terms, opting instead for a trial by combat. When the duel spells doom for the conniving dwarf, he receives aid from Varys and Jaime, who together urge him to flee for his wretched life. But to the dismay of the entire Lannister family, save Tyrion himself, the imp murders his father in the night, wrenching the staunchest of the lions off his feet for eternity. Tywin's children may bear the brunt of the power left behind, but it is Kevan who now must maintain his older brother's demeanor, lest the family fall into further disarray. In A Feast for Crows, Kevan reels in the shock of the death of Lord Tywin, along with the rest of the Lannisters. He is one of the first to be notified of the murder, and attends the funeral with his resolve shaken. With the power hierarchy in King's Landing more uncertain than ever, Queen Regent Cersei Lannister, Kevan's niece, attempts to not only stake her claim, but make it undeniable. She offers Kevan the role of Hand of the King, but her uncle is not so quick to accept the position. He informs Cersei that Tywin had planned to send her back to Casterly Rock with a husband before his death. Kevan explains he will only accept the role of King's Hand if Cersei steps down as regent and returns west. Yet, he is still unsure he is even the best choice at all, but it matters not. Cersei denies his demands and grows spiteful toward her uncle, sowing the seed of a one-sided feud. She names ill-suited cousins to the roles of Warden of the West and Castellan of Casterly Rock, passing over Ser Kevan without a second thought, and names Sir Harys Swift, the father of Kevan's own wife, as Hand of the King. This action keeps her uncle in check, but also disgruntles him further in a precarious civil conflict. And out in the Riverlands, even Kevan's own eldest son Lancel refuses to adhere to his wishes. With his father's aid, Lancel begins to restore Castle Derry, his new seat after his heroics at the Blackwater. But to Kevan's chagrin, Lancel opts instead to join the Faith Militant. House Lannister of Derry is extinct before its birth, and what little empire Kevan had planned for his descendants is now gone. Cersei, however, fares no better. After her reinstatement of the Faith Militant, and devious plotting to topple favorable Queen Margaery Tyrell, she is imprisoned by the Faith, toppling her regime built of deception and suspicion. Ser Kevan Lannister is offered the regency in her stead. The lion who had lived in the shadows of so many others finally bears the weight of the world upon his shoulders in A Dance with Dragons. Ser Kevan accepts the role of regent to King Tommen, and returns to King's Landing from Casterly Rock to make right the disarray brought about by Cersei and her fall. He names multiple members of House Tyrell and their bannermen to prominent positions at court as recompense for their trouble, and begins to draw out the truth of Cersei's foul deeds from the lips of the disgraced Queen Regent. Again seeking to reclaim dignity for his house, it is Kevan who commands Cersei to make her walk of atonement across the city, after which she is scooped up by the uncanny Sir Robert Strong. Ser Kevan leads the small council in matters of peace and war involving Westeros, and sees plainly the current plight of the crown. But for all his misgivings, all his attempts to make right the sins of his house, Kevan is not greeted with praise or respect. Instead, he is called by a servant to the chambers of Grand Maester Pycelle, only to find the ancient man already slain. Lord Varys stands half-cloaked in shadow, crossbow in his hand, and shoots Kevan with only a hint of remorse. Varys explains that he holds no personal quarrel with the man, but Kevan's stable presence in a time of such chaos threatens to repair the damage done to the Tyrell-Lannister alliance. Cersei had so perfectly unsettled the pact, but Kevan was making strides that Varys and his allies could not afford. And so, with death by crossbow, Cersei would suspect Tyrion of murdering Kevan, while the Tyrells would suspect Cersei, creating yet another storm of discord and an unmatched opportunity for young Aegon Targaryen to claim the throne. With equal emotions of apathy and guilt, Varys commands his little birds to end the life of Ser Kevan Lannister, just as his presence is needed more than ever. Despite all the evil acts attributed to his name and committed under his banner, Tywin Lannister is the sturdy foundation of his house. As long as he commands the forces of Casterly Rock, the Lannisters seem unstoppable to their enemies. But no man can live forever. When Tywin meets his demise at the hands of his own son in the dead of night, a void is left at the top of House Lannister. Cersei attempts to fill this gap, but she cares more about herself than anyone or anything else, and puts her own needs and desires even above those of her family. Instead, the true heir to the Lannister seat, at least in demeanor, is Ser Kevan Lannister. All his life, Kevan learned from and stayed loyal to Tywin, even forsaking the chance at lordship to serve under Tywin's banner. Throughout this time, Kevan adopts his brother's calm, calculated personality, though he is not nearly as ruthless as Tywin, and when his house needs a stable presence more than anything else, Kevan naturally assumes the role. He eases the tensions between Lannister and Tyrell, places a calming hand on the chaotic realm, and dispenses justice as required, showing no favor for those who share his blood. Although he has been overlooked and cast aside for countless prominent positions, he accepts the role of regent not with arrogance or spite in his heart, only a willingness to serve and make right the wrongs of his kin. Yet peacemakers make for easy targets for those who sow discontent. Because of his calming, unifying presence, Ser Kevan is marked for death. He is not meant to rule, after all, and kings still abound across Westeros. Kevan proves too dependable, and joins his brother in the land beyond, both felled in the Red Keep in an effort to cripple House Lannister. While the results of his fall have yet to be fully revealed, Kevan Lannister seemed the greatest hope at filling the void atop the hierarchy of his family. Instead, he only suffers for his efforts. Like many thrust into the Game of Thrones, Kevan Lannister hardly deserved his fate. Long had he wallowed in the shadow of his older brother, yet he never grew bitter or resentful. When the time finally did come for Ser Kevan to assume his place at the forefront of his family, he did so admirably, repairing a fractured continent with little time and less resources. Any who knew the structure of House Lannister could see that Kevan had always been overlooked and overshadowed, but in his brief time as regent, he repaired what was once thought to be permanent damage between families and factions at the realm's highest levels. But for this very same reason, a target blossomed on the back of Kevan Lannister. His stability was unwelcome to the forces still at work in the shadows of the Seven Kingdoms, and he was toppled with the trickery that stood in such stark contrast to his stern, yet open nature. In the narrative, Kevan Lannister reflected responsibility punished. So, that's all for this video. Leave a comment with your thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new here, I'd love to have you. Visit my website russelawellsauthor.com for exclusive reviews, fiction, and more. And sign up for my mailing list for free, exclusive content. The links for both are in the description below. And, like always, I will see you next time.